Go on to our next presenter, and we have Dr. Kalpana. And Dr. Kalpana won the Colonel Rangachari in 2019. She's the head of Department of Uveitis and Ocular Inflammation at Prabha Institute Clinic and Research Center and Vitala International Institute of Ophthalmology, Bangalore. So over to you, Kalpana, and would like to hear your story.
Thank you, Dr. Partha. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Partha and the entire scientific committee of the All India Ophthalmic Society for giving me a chance to present my journey through this research. So it all started off in 2010 when we had a young lady who came from the forests of Nagarhole and Bandipur, and she presented to us with neuroretinitis following a tick bite. Now, she underwent all investigations, including rickettsial, and everything was negative. All her symptoms were like Lyme's. So out of personal funds, we had her sample taken, blood sample, and sent it to France. And this came out positive for Lyme's, both on ELISA as well as Western blot. Now, since then, we had 3 more such cases from around the same area who were all ELISA positive and Western blot positive for Lyme's and everything else negative. Now, as we all know, Lyme's is caused by a spirochete called Borrelia, and this is transmitted by infected ticks of the genus Ioxidis. What is important is it has 2 phases. One is an early phase, which is reversible if it is diagnosed early, and the late phase, which is irreversible, where the permanent damage is done. And the most interesting part is this is treated with antibiotics, and the confirmation is done by an ELISA and a Western blot. Now, around the same time when we had our cases, there was a Lyme's disease outbreak in the neighboring Wayanad area. So basically, this is the region which is the same forest area, but on the side of Kerala. So this got us thinking, like, we are seeing something which does not exist or supposed to not exist in India. It is not even included in the differential diagnosis. And whatever cases we were seeing were from around the same region. And all of them were confirmed. They were ELISA as well as Western blot positive. So we went back to literature and to just see, like, is there any data from India before our case report? And interestingly, this study kind of evoked our interest. This was study done by the Armed Forces Department, and this is from Northeastern India, where they found a high seroprevalence, close to about 13%. And in Arunachal, it was as high as 19%. And this was an asymptomatic general population. And what they concluded was there are Ioxidis ticks in the Himalayas, and there could be an asymptomatic infection going on. So our questions were, since all these were from the same area, what is the seroprevalence of such a disease in a population at risk in South India? And are we underdiagnosing Lyme's in India? Now, to answer this question, we had to chalk out a methodology. And so it has to be prospective. And we kind of try to answer a question, the seroprevalence. And it would be better if we could also collect ticks from that area, and if we could find out if these ticks contained the organism. And for this needed a lot of clearances, which we had to get. So to address the first question, we thought we will screen a population at risk. And since all these cases were coming from around the same area, we narrowed the region to these ranges. And we also included this forest because of accessibility, because it was easier for us to do it from these areas. And of course, this had to be done with an informed consent. We had to make a simple questionnaire. We needed to do a complete ocular and systemic examination. So we needed to look at a team which had both ophthalmologists as well as infectious disease specialists. And we had to also look at the serology, for meaning which we had to collect the samples, blood samples, which had to be subjected to ELISA as well as the Western blot. And so we included the forest workers and their families from these areas. And this was the seropositivity, the definition. So for the second part of the study, we also had to collect the ticks. And for this, we collected around 800 ticks from these forest areas by this particular method. And we had to do this by a multiplex real-time PCR to see if this organism was present in these ticks. Now, what is interesting is when we conceptualized this idea, this was way back in 2015, and over a period of time, the technologies also started changing, and we started getting this next-gen sequencing. So this was also used in the second phase of this study, and statistical analysis was also done for our data. Now, this initial seed idea was probably mine, but this would not have grown if it was not the efforts of Dr. Krishna, who was already doing a lot of translational work with higher centers such as Institute of Bioinformatics, and Dr. Praveen, who had a lot of contacts with the forest department. So I think this was where our networking started, and to get what we wanted to achieve. And the neurovirology team headed by Dr. Ravi at NIMHANS was already doing a project on rickettsia. And at that point of time, so they had a lot of idea on how to go about this study, and they helped us a lot on formulating our study. And of course, the statistics team at NIMHANS. We didn't know how to collect ticks. We didn't know how to, what tests we need to do. So this is where the forest department as well as the Department of Parasitology came in, and we approached them on how to collect these ticks. And these organizations, the Wildlife First organization, helped us in getting all necessary permissions from the Forest Department, which is a governmental agency. And as we all know, a prospective study like this involves a lot of finances, and this would not have been possible if not from the grant or the financial support from the Indian Council of Medical Research. Now, this is a few pictures taken, the way we screened these patients, the way we, these were not patients, it was actually the forest staff, and the examinations done, the blood samples drawn, the way we collected the ticks from deeper areas in the forest, from all sorts of animals also. And finally, we were able to screen 518 workers, obtained 472 blood samples. And what was interesting was we had a 19.9% positivity, and out of which 15.6% were positive on Western blot. So these were all confirmed. Again, this is a part of the study where it was more significant in patients who, in forest workers who went out and who were exposed to tick bites. And this is how we classified the infection: recent infection with previous exposure, recent infection, past infection, and no infections. And we also tested these samples if there was any cross-reactivity as well. So the first part was what I presented for the AIOS, and this is the subsequent part where we did a examination on 250 ticks, and we had 4 positive for rickettsia. There was 1 which was indeterminate for Borrelia, but it was not confirmatory. So at this point of time, we decided to do a next genome sequencing on these ticks, and this is ongoing. We are still awaiting our initial analysis of the bioinformatics data. What is interesting is, actually, when we look, this paper had come out at that point of time, and they did see Ioxidus tick in the same region where we were seeing this high seroprevalence. And after our case, we are having increasing reports from almost, in South India as well as from North India. So this study has actually opened our eyes. We have a high seroprevalence of infection in our region. And probably with the current evidence we have, Lyme's is underdiagnosed in India. So how do we apply this research to our clinical scenario? This is new information for all of us, where Lyme's was never included in the differential diagnosis. So if we have a person coming from an area which is at risk with a positive serology, I think it is important for us to treat. So post my research, this research, I think my 2 cents for young researchers are, it is important to definitely get into research, because it breaks the monotony of your daily clinical practice, and you should do it because it is fun. always identify problems which you encounter in your field, because it becomes easier for you to go about trying to solve it. And always, I think we should keep the methodology simple, and it should not be very grandiose. You should know your limitations. If you have very grandiose ideas, you may be very disheartened. So keep it very simple. For me, awards and publications was not an aim. I know it will follow if you really do good work. And though we are not from a very big institute where research is very where it is there, this study has helped us. It is easier for us to network with bigger institutes, and you need not be in a big institute to really do good work. And the most important takeaway is, I think when you do any research, your mindset should be positive. You should always have a positive approach, and just like how our previous speakers had highlighted, hard work and patience is the key. And I would really like to say this particular quote, this phrase from Paulo Coelho, that when you want to achieve something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Kalpana. But what a journey. The journey with a passion, and it took you to forests, it took you to ticks, and it took you to Lyme's disease and exposing everything that we had to reread, and it is there very much in India. Fantastic, fantastic. So over to Feroz and over to Santosh, and Dr. Somshila, I think, has excused herself. So Bhalla,
yeah.
So for the discussion, please.
It was a very nice presentation, Kalpana. I know you well. So you have a very good training background in uveitis, inflammation, pathology, and you have brought in all your knowledge into kind of fructification with this project. I suppose it was a very well-planned study. You challenged a dogma that Lyme's disease does not exist in India and planned a study which was a bottom of the pyramid, broad-based epidemiological study, which had a very high science at the background of it, right? So I think it was done very well. But what is very important is that there seems to be something in the air of Bangalore, something called vitamin R, which predisposes all of you to, aspire for Rangachari and get it. There are too many winners from Bangalore.
Very nicely said, Santosh.
Well, I can also take credit because I am from Bangalore and I won Rangachari when I was a resident, and immediately following that, Namrata also won as a resident. So, long time ago.
Santosh tutored me for, the next year Rangachari once he had got. So we went running to him, how do you make slides? So I do remember that he actually, I used the same template which he had used. So I just copy pasted my, research on that. But I do remember, and to get it as a resident was a big thing.
Yeah, basically, all the 4 presentations have been from, they're young, but of course they're mid-level professionals, right? So not to discourage residents and fellows to, from getting Rangachari. Actually, they can get it if they try hard, and their thesis they can work on really well, and that could be one of the, platforms for presentation.
I think that's a very important note, Santosh and Namrata, both of you made, that, for the residents, the mentors should propose the thesis in such lines that it can be path-breaking. So the mentorship is also so important, and the quality of the thesis, because a resident spends 2 years to 3 years for the thesis. And if it is something that really answers a question, it might answer in the positive, it might answer in the negative. But whatever the answer, the thesis itself can go on to a culmination of learning new facts for ophthalmology.
I think at that point in time, that is your best bet, because that is the time, when you've left no stone unturned and you know about it maximum. And your guides have to be, kind enough. Both my guides, Dr. Vajpayee and Dr. Anita Panda, were kind enough to allow me to present. So likewise for Santosh also, I think it was Dr. N.N. Sood, sir. So
yeah, Dr. Sood and Ramanjit.
Yeah, so they have to be kind enough to, let you go.
No, I think kind enough everyone was. Even I would go back, 10 years more. I don't remember, epidemic dropsy or silver sulfur dioxide that was presented. I don't know, one of the 2 or both times. So I don't know, Partha, you need to do something restricted to residents, because earlier it used to go to only residents.
residents, yeah.
I think I was a senior resident at that time or whatever, and not a faculty. So most of the people were residents when earlier it used to happen. I don't know, maybe Lalit at
Yeah, no, I remember that epidemic dropsy, which glaucoma, it was in Palam area, remember, Mahipal?
Yeah. Santosh was also involved there.
Because ultimately, Mahipal put us into that, research mode, and more than 7-8 papers came out of that.
Yeah.
And everything, you see, मैंने महिपाल को बोला, मैंने कहा महिपाल इसमें क्या कहता है, नहीं यार ये भी करना है, ट्रीटमेंट भी करना है, पैथोलॉजी भी निकालनी है, सारा कुछ, everything got changed because of his intrusive nature and बार-बार poke करने के लिए, and he used to poke us so much, but later on we realized, in fact he got hold of his brother also, Mahipal, then neurophysiological studies also came up, so a lot of things came up. But only thing I would, apart from what Partha was saying, Santosh and Namita, mentorship is very good, but documentation has to be world class. See, documentation plays a very important role, so as to impress upon others that, it's really important.
I think
Thank
one
you very
more
much,
thing
sir.
which Kalpana has brought out and which should be highlighted is that, being a private institution, they've got a grant from ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research. And there are various organizations like ICMR, DST, DBT. They are giving grants to, non-governmental organizations also. So you need to know this because they have a lot of money to dispense. The only thing that we are not, or most people are not aware of it, and so they don't submit the grants. So I think Partho should also, through the scientific committee or through AIOS, also impress upon them, or help them to submit their grants so that, they see the light of the day.
Absolutely. I think
Taking up from where Dr. Lalit left, I think what is very important, and even what Dr. Kalpana has proven, is that irrespective of the problem, whether at that particular time you feel that it is minuscule or it does not lead to anything.
Yeah.
So if you really do a deep dive into any problem and get yourself involved, I think that is something very, very important. And who would have thought that she could come out with such excellent work and publication, which would spur even other people across the country to kind of come forward and report. And that's what basically, nothing is small enough. So it's actually, if you go into the detailing of some particular, even the smallest aspect, that is when your publications come out of it, or you have to be a master of very little. That's about it. You can't be looking at a huge canvas of things. So you have to do a deep diving into that. So
absolutely, sir.
Kalpana, great.